1969, there is a young lawyer whose name is Ernest Jones. He, in 1969, is completing his legal studies at Howard University Law Center. Howard is no ordinary place to be trained as a lawyer. In fact, it would be an insult to speak of Howard's Law Center as an institution. Howard is more like an experience, and Howard has a beautiful mission. Its mission is to educate. Its mission is to enable students to develop their highest capabilities and skills as lawyers. But just producing lawyers is not good enough for Howard. Howard also demands something of the lawyers they produce. They want those lawyers to be problem solvers. Howard wants those lawyers to be innovators. Howard is calling those lawyers to be social engineers. Howard asks its lawyers to accept the charge upon graduation. Those lawyers are to pursue solutions, not small solutions. They are to solve domestic, international problems that are legal, that are social, that are economic, and that are political. And they focus specifically on problems that impact minority groups in this country and abroad. But Howard doesn't just talk the talk. Howard walks the walk. And you don't have to look far to see the evidence of that. I want all of us to just look on the signature line of the Hatfield litigation, the very court case that actually led to the creation of this HBCU, the Southern University Law Center. Once you inspect the signature of that Hatfield litigation, you'll begin to see very, very powerful evidence of what Howard produces. You'll see there the name of Thurgood Marshall. He is a Howard Law graduate, and he is a part of the history of forming this HBCU that we are assembled at tonight. You will also see there the stellar lawyer Louis A. Berry, who is also a Howard Law graduate and would go on to be a dean of this law center, Southern University Law Center. There also lies the signature of the prolific A.P. Turo, who is also a Howard Law graduate. It's impossible to talk about Howard Law and its rich legacy without speaking the name Charles Hamilton Houston on an occasion such as tonight, where we commemorate those who've made impacts for Black History Month. Houston was a dean, but he was also one of the greatest scholars, one of the greatest legal strategists of his time, who gave generously of his knowledge. Houston discipled those who would follow him. Those under Houston's tutelage were lawyers who are unapologetically Black and unapologetically bold. Those were the disciples of Hamilton Houston. And much like the people we celebrate here tonight, I know you're sitting here thinking, Professor Bell, did you forget? This is not a Howard University BLSA event. This is a Southern University BLSA event. So what about Southern University Law Center, Professor Bell? Well, I want you to know, not long after Attorney Jones graduated from Howard Law School, there is the moment now that Southern's history changes, because there is not long after that day that he leaves law school in '69, in 1970, a baby girl claimed her first breath in a New Orleans hospital. That date was September the 11th, 1970. 4 days later, on September the 15th, 1970, while that new baby girl was learning how to navigate and adjust to life outside of the womb, a militarized law enforcement presence was descending upon another New Orleans neighborhood. Over 100 law enforcement officials showed up at the Black Panther Party headquarters that September the 15th, 1970 morning. They were armed that morning with 12-gauge pump shotguns, 1.5-inch tear gas, M130 caliber carbines. That was not all they had. They had AR-15 rifles, bolt action 30 rifles, over 240 weapons in all. For well over 30 minutes that day, shots were fired indiscriminately. Tear gas was released. Over 30 rounds of ammunition was sprayed that day into the Black Panther Party headquarters. That ammunition also hit neighboring homes, as well as a crowd that had gathered that morning. The Panther headquarters was riddled with bullets. Amazingly, not a single member of the Black Panther Party that was inside of those headquarters that day was harmed. As they exited, the people of New Orleans did something very defiant. They chanted to those Black Panthers, "Power to the people," as they exited those headquarters. The 12 members of that Black Panther Party chapter, who then and now contend that law enforcement shot first, they were charged with attempted murder. They were charged with attempted murder of each of those 5 officers. Some of those Black Panthers were also charged with battery, being inside of a home where they were shot at. Some of them were charged with criminal anarchy, criminal trespassing, federal gun violations. And by this time, Attorney Jones was gainfully employed, living his best life at the New Orleans Legal Assistance Center. When the Black Panthers came calling for Attorney Jones, they needed his capable legal help. Howard's mission was activated. It became instinct for Attorney Jones to accept that case. Howard's lessons in procedure were on display that week in that New Orleans courtroom. Howard's lessons on criminal and constitutional law were on display throughout that trial in New Orleans. Ernest Jones provided a masterful defense to the Black Panther Party. This brother, the one that we are all assembled tonight to celebrate, this brother walked not one of those Panthers, not 4 of those Panthers, not 7 of those Panthers, but all 12 of those Black Panthers out of felonies. Because of Ernest Jones, all 12 of those Panthers were found not guilty. If those Panthers had been convicted, those 9 men and 3 women would have faced up to 20 years in prison on each of those counts. Attorney Ernest Jones is at this front table. I would ask you to stand and honor this man for his dutiful sacrifice. This is an example to everyone. And I'm not done. Thank you. The news reporters never did for Attorney Jones what they do for Black men in the United States of America every evening as they're being escorted to jail. They didn't cover this story on the 6 o'clock news. They didn't put it on the 10 o'clock news. They didn't re-air it over and over and over like they do every day in America for Black men as they're being escorted to jail. In fact, the media never even told us that Attorney Ernest Lake Jones, in his 55 years as a lawyer, has successfully operated a private practice, has served as in-house counsel, as a judge, and as a law professor. The news also failed to tell us that this man, Mr. Ernest Jones, as a private attorney, has successfully represented the impressive array of clients, such as the Black Organization of Police, the Congress of Racial Equality, the Republic of New Africa, the NAACP, the New Orleans Parish School Board, Keeping Our Legacy Alive, and the African American Leadership Project. In fact, one might convincingly argue that the news gave the Black Panther Party much more press than they gave their lawyer, who had just received on their behalf and achieved for all of us an unprecedented victory. You see, the media faithfully showed the Panthers in cuffs every evening as they walked in and out of the courtroom. They constantly blasted images of those Panthers toting guns to reinforce that stereotype that Black men are inherently dangerous. They used terms like radicals when they wrote about the Black Panther Party. They called them a hate group repetitively because marketers and journalists know the art of repetition. You say something enough, people believe it to be true. When the media never showed the world the images of the Black Panthers reading books so that they could educate themselves to educate others. The media never let us see the images of Black Panthers helping the elderly women to the banks and across the street. They never showed them feeding our Black babies. The Black babies, the government didn't care whether they ate or not. But what about that baby girl? The one you mentioned, the one that was born September the 11th, 1970. Where is she in this story, you ask? Well, baby girl is all grown up. She is a law professor now. She is an internationally recognized expert. She is one who is sought after on the interplay of race and law. Like Attorney Jones, baby girl is also an advocate for the Panthers. She does narrative change work these days on behalf of the Black Panther Party. In a very strange twist of fate, baby girl is working for the people who were working with the people when she was born. Now, if I've taught you anything, and I see a lot of my students here, you already know what I'm getting ready to say next. Everybody that's had one of my lectures knows this moment comes. It is the moment where I say to you, good lawyers see what is not written. It is the moment I say to you, good lawyers hear what no one says out loud. What in this story is not written? What in this story has not been said out loud? Number one, the story is rich with lessons about purpose. Purpose is when you run to that thing that everybody else runs from. Everybody else runs from it because it's too complicated. It's too ugly. It's too nasty. It costs too much. The pay is too great. But for some reason, you run to it. And everybody that is being celebrated in this room is an example of purpose. What did Attorney Jones do? He ran in the direction of a case that most lawyers would have feared touching. What did the Black Panther Party do? They ran in the direction of problems that family members, friends, even the government turned a blind eye to. So the best way, if we're interested in celebrating these legends and these icons of Black history, is to mimic the way they lived out their purpose. The second thing that you don't hear or see in this story are the lessons about critical thought spaces. And I want you to pay close attention. Howard was an incubator of excellence. To be a Panther, you had to be well-read. You had to be knowledgeable. That's before you put on that sexy beret and that blue shirt. You had to have your knowledge first. And all the stuff that could liberate people around the country, those movements you had to be studied in. Panthers were people who came with nothing, and they left with intellectual prowess. Are you coming into institutions learned and leaving out trained? That is a question I ask you. What are you being trained at? Are you being trained to be complicit in your own oppression? We must demand education and not training. Education is about innovating. Education is about creating. Education is about thinking critically. It is about building. It is about improving. It is about creating social change. Education is about vision to see something so that you avert oppression and injustice before it could ever sneak upon you. That's what education does. Law students, I'm challenging you tonight to ask, are your spaces being infantilized? Do you find yourself sitting in spaces where you're being entertained, maybe even detained? I want to know, are you being nourished? I want to know, are you being coddled or are you being challenged? Do you understand that doing the same thing every generation over and over results in no social progress? New battles mean that we need new approaches. And that is what the Panthers did. They saw what happened to Martin Luther King doing it that way. And they saw what happened to Brother Malcolm doing it that way. And so they represent a shift. They represent education. They represent revolution. This is not going to be pacifism anymore. It won't be marching no more. It will not be begging anymore. It's demanding, which are back upright. It's taking the reins of all social struggle that involves people of color. And Ernest Jones, what did he do? He didn't do the same thing. This brother shows up in the South dangerous, possessing weapons that got Black folks killed in the South. What kind of ammunition did Ernest Jones carry in that courtroom? That brother walked in there armed with knowledge and swagger and confidence, unafraid and unapologetic. He was bold and willing to get into that boxing ring with white supremacists. That is on short supply in Louisiana. Where are your thought leaders? Who are the elders that you go to for guidance? Ernest Jones went to his. That's why he had his moment. The Panthers went to theirs. That's why they're alive, sitting in this room tonight with us. I want to know, are you looking to have the kind of resume that Ernest Jones and the Panthers have? Or are you the person with the PhD in photo ops? Do you have a master's degree in knowing how to get the photo with the people who do the work? But you don't do none of it. Are you understanding that thought spaces are about reclaiming ourselves as a people? Do we understand now that thought leaders help us to innovate our strategies to move ourselves forward as a people, not as a Black people, but as a human family? That is a lesson here. The Panthers and their attorney, Mr. Jones, accomplished that. And I want us to understand it was because their training was not just academic. It was not just remembering, not just being repetition, but they were trained in strategy. They were trained as critical thinkers. They were skilled at social struggle. They were about engineering movements. And the next thing that is not said or written in this story is about the assignment. See, everyone in this story, the entire cast of characters, they all understood their assignment. The Panthers never ended racism. They never ended fascism. What they did was gave us models for achieving both of those things. And the Panthers reminded the oppressors that Black people have potent resistance powers. Attorney Jones did not ever stop the government from neutralizing the entire Black Panther Party, but he certainly did shield and protect those that were in his care and custody. And so sometimes it is your assignment not to defeat the thing. Sometimes it's good enough just to outlast the opposition. Sometimes it's good enough just to make them experience discomfort as they battle you. Sometimes, like baby girl, you don't even have to be alive when it happens to be a part of fixing it. Sometimes, like Attorney Richard Sobel, Attorney Robert Glass, Attorney Bronstein, Charles Cotton, and George Strickler, all attorneys who assisted the Panthers in their time of need. You don't even have to be the same complexion as the person that you are there to help. These were all white men, and what they shared was not skin color, but concern. They understood interconnectedness, and at the center of all the work we do, we are in a struggle for human rights and social justice more than we are civil rights. Sometimes, like Ernest Jones, there's no cameras around to film your victory. There's no celebrity to follow. Sometimes the history books will even omit you. Sometimes your people might see you and choose not to even notice your labels. See, this is a generation of people that never got social media famous, but they kept doing the work. And so my message for you is that this task remains yours. If anybody ever credits you for it, it is yours to do. And the other thing I say to you that is not written or spoken in this story is that each of these people, Attorney Jones and every one of these Panthers at this table, they readied themselves. They were prepared, the Panthers were, to take the baton from the generation before them. Ernest Jones was prepared to take that baton from the generation before them. As Martin Luther King would say, we don't need any more people that have high blood pressure words and anemia of deeds. This story right here profiles people who grind, people who sacrifice their personal families, their fun. They exist in spaces where trauma lingers. This story is about people who have lived selflessly, people who live modestly, people who are always in training. They don't take a day off. They thirst for knowledge. They hunger for justice and technique, and they are always willing to serve. Have you adopted these traits? Will you be ready for that baton when this generation is ready to pass it on to you? So I want to applaud BLSA for deciding tonight to honor Attorney Ernest Jones and the Louisiana chapter of the Black Panther Party for modeling the traits of Black history icons. Before I call Ernest Jones up to the stage, I'm gonna ask everybody in this room to show some Southern University Lost into love for Queen Edith G. Jones, who is sitting at this front table, because since baby girl bred her first breath, Queen Edith Jones has been the wife of Mr. Ernest Jones. That is a total of 53 long years. All right? And let's also show some love to their son Everett and their grandchildren sitting at this front table, if you don't mind. I want them to feel warmly welcome. See, these men who are being celebrated tonight, Attorney Ernest Jones, I want you to know that you have shown America who the Black man really is. Attorney Jones, it is my extreme pleasure to call you to the stage to be honored tonight, and thank you for your service. He said it's dangerous. I have to be warned.
Thank you, everybody. I don't know where to put this microphone. Is it working now? Oh, good. A little bit closer. How's that? Good. Thank you, Professor Bell. I knew I wasn't going to be able to hear anything in my funeral. So I never expected to hear my accolades like that. That's wonderful. And now I don't mind not being able to hear the lies they tell about me at my funeral. I want to thank Black Law Students Association, especially. I've had some awards before in my life, but this one is special. I once got an award from the Federal Bar Association for public service, the Open Bell Award. And I thought that was the greatest thing that ever happened. But this is special because these are my folks. These are people who have had the kinds of experiences that I have had. And that makes it special because I know that you know what I know. Anything that we do is harder than it's supposed to be. Even being here as law students, what it took to get here was harder than it was supposed to be. But being in the Black Law Students Association means that you have made some early choices in your life, and you didn't know at the time that you made them how much they would influence what happened to you. That seemingly innocent choice started a tsunami that will lead you to your purpose and to your goals. But now, because you are part of BLSA, you are tagged forever and you can't get away from it. You are Black and you can't get away from it. You are trained in the law and you can't get away from it. And you are students and you can't get away from it. As long as you live, you will be studying and learning about yourself, about America, and about the world. I wear tonight a pin that signifies my current application. It's a pin for the Louisiana Civil Rights Museum, which was created legislatively in 1999 and still has no place on the ground where you can put your feet. I worked toward it with many of my colleagues so that you and your children will have a place to go to find out how we got where we are today. And it will be different from where we are now. When you ask an old fella to take a mic, that's a dangerous thing because you can't make him stop. I can start at age 8 in second grade, going up to law school with me until 10 o'clock. I'm not going to do that part. I have it all written down what I did. But having heard Professor Bell, I know that I need not say that here, because listening to her words, she has told me who her audience was, who you are, and who I am speaking to. And one of the things I learned was that you needed to know who you were talking to. When we had to defend the Black Panther Party in New Orleans, we knew who we were talking to. We were talking to people who had been drilled with the propaganda that the Black Panther Party was a violent revolutionary group that wanted to kill all white folks, but especially white cops. And that they were going to disrupt the city of New Orleans if they weren't stopped. And we knew that those folks had been told by the governor, the mayor, and all of the officials of Louisiana that if they weren't stopped, the city would be destroyed. So we knew from what we had to do that this was not just a criminal case, it was a political case. Let me take myself some indulgence and tell you for a minute how I came to be with the Black Panther Party. Professor Bell has told you I was working for New Orleans Legal Civics. That's because I had gone through Howard Law School, gotten well trained, gotten an interview on Wall Street, and like all third-year law students, I took the trip when they were offering it to me, so I had to go for the interview. When I got there on Wall Street at number 1, the associate who showed me around told me what he was doing and said I want to be doing similar work. He was revising the charter of the Bronx Zoo in New York. After spending 4 years at Howard undergraduate and 3 years in Howard Law School, it wasn't for me. That choice was quickly made. Didn't know where that choice was going to take me. But in the 3rd year, I got offered what is called a Reginald Heber Smith Fellowship, a community law fellowship, where the government was actually going to train people who were lawyers to do anti-poverty work and then send them around to legal services groups all across the country. That was a chance for me to be a Black law student learning how to help Black people. I took it. It was an easy choice. There I was at NOLAC in New Orleans doing poverty work when I got a call from a fellow that said, I'm about to get evicted from the house we're in. Can you help me? Well, sure, where are you? His name was Steve Green, and he told me he was here to organize the National Committee to Combat Fascism. Interesting, I said. What are you doing up there? He said, we're teaching political education to people in the neighborhood. We're telling them what happens, what's going on with them. Fine. I'll help. I'll defend your eviction. The owner of the house was Bernard Baggins, who was a judge in criminal district court. He had heard about them, and he feared them. And he feared what they were doing. We won that case, but we compromised to say that, look, they're going to leave here anyway. We won it on First Amendment grounds, but they're going to take their political education classes elsewhere. They went to Zion, as you know. And it was there that the governmental authorities decided that they had to be evicted. So all of those troops and all of those guns and all of those tanks were sent down there to evict them. You believe that was their purpose. You missed the whole part of it. They did it. They tried to shoot them out, but they lost. It came to us, they called me that night to say that we know that the cops are coming. They're going to bail. Can you come down and help us? Well, my colleague Robert Glass called me, and we did go down there that night. That wasn't in the press. I made it out without anybody knowing it, but Bob left his coat down there. And the grand jury found out he was down there. That's another story that I'll tell later on. But Bob wouldn't say a word about what had happened, even though he was threatened with contempt and found in contempt for not breaking the attorney-client privilege about what had happened the night before. We knew that we had to win that case by dealing with it politically. And that's what we tried to do because we understood the politics of what was going on. My first call was to Charles Gary, whom I knew to be Huey Newton's personal lawyer, seeking to get Huey out of jail. When he and I talked about it, he turned me on to a book called Minimizing Racism in Jury Trials. I got it. That became my Bible. We won that case in jury selection. And you have to know, and you students who would take criminal law from Professor Bell already know this. Every criminal defendant in Louisiana has what they call peremptory challenges. 12 of them. Meaning you can take 12 people off the jury for any reason, for no reason, for whatever reason you want. I had 12 defendants. That meant I had 144 peremptory challenges. And I moved every one of them. Jury selection took a month. Trial only took a week. And when we finished, the proudest moment in my career was when the foreman of the jury, who was white, stood up and said, "In the name of Martin Luther King, not guilty." What he said. You remember those words. Well, demographers tell me that this generation complains because there are not any challenges left for them. That they're sorry that they weren't around in the old days of the civil rights movement. And that may be so. But I want to tell you that there are plenty of challenges left for you. That's right. My generation got access to places of public accommodation, and we got access to voting rights. My generation got access to government positions and private positions of employment, where Black folks could work in places that they never could before. Your generation will have to gain access to America's wealth. Integrate the money. And that's going to make those other challenges look like a walk in the park. How will it come about and what will you be asked to do? I don't know. But I'll tell you what I do know. In March of 2023, the white Republican legislature of Mississippi sent bills to the governor who signed them, creating laws that created a state police force in Jackson, Mississippi, the capital of the state of Mississippi, the state which has 40% Black folks in it. That state now has in its capital city, where 8 out of 10 people are Black. That state now has a separate police force, a separate court system, and a separate 911 system for people who live in the suburbs. I know that. I know that the governor of Louisiana has called a special session to deal with the crime problem And I know that the governor of Louisiana has agreed with certain officers of the city of New Orleans to bring the state police into the city to help with the crime problem. Will there be a separate court system? Is that the way things are going? I don't know. I'm not sure. But I'll ask you this. If the demographers are right, do you believe that our supremacist rulers for generations are going to obey the principle of majority rule when they are in the minority? You believe that? If you don't, prepare yourself.
That's right.
Because that will be the struggle. That will be where your generation of Black lawyers will have to find the solution. The way you will have to watch for rule changes. You will have to watch them change and squash them and kill them before they are born, so that there will be minority rule in America. The National Committee to Combat Fascism will start. When fascism comes to America, it will come wrapped in a flag, whistling the Star Spangled Banner. That will be your change. How will you do it? I don't know. I wish you well. If I can help you, let me know.
Bless you, brother. Yeah.
Thank you, Attorney Jones. And on behalf of BLSA, we would like to recognize living history in our presence. We thank you for your contributions in our Black history with your organization during the Civil Rights Movement. And we appreciate your hard work, Attorney Jones, and thank you for being a trailblazer and paving the way for us all. We would like to award you with the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah.
We can go.
Good.
You want to touch that? Thank you. And to the Black Panther Party. And to the Black Panther Party, we would also like to thank you for your contributions, and we would like to award you all separately with the Ages for Change Award. You so cool.
You have to give a speech.
No.
Yeah. Wow. You have brought us a long way. We are here to speak about very few people who really committed to deal with all those bullets being fired in that house. But one thing I can always say, God as well was on our side. We survived it. And I would like to mention my brothers as well as my sisters that are not here, that they would like to say all power to the people.
Also, Robert King, Jason Lawrence, Mr. Lawrence has something to say.
Anybody knows, I don't speak, I'm very uncomfortable, but I just gotta say this. Brother Jones, man, words could never express, what you've done for us. And, thank you seem so small, but I want you to move in. I love you, we love you. And Malik and Mariam and Betty Mountain said you love. They couldn't make it, but we love you, man. And I want to read a quote. Sister Bell talks about one word caught my attention in a speech. He talked about assignment. Let me read what co-founder party said about assignment. The first lesson a revolutionary must learn is that he's a doomed man. Unless he understands this, he does not grasp the essential meaning of life. And to all the comrades that completed life and supreme sacrifice for the people, the lives were not in vain, and the struggle continues. All power to the people.
Wow. Next is Malik Rahim, however he is not here. We'll allow y'all to step out on his behalf. Brian Hunter. That's when the same is behind us.
This is my brother Jason came up here and told y'all that he is uncomfortable with speaking. That's not true. He's been speaking very loudly and frequently at the last few events that we've been at. So, but anyway, thank you for you guys for recognition, and we really truly appreciate Brother Ernest. You know, I'm honored to be here with you and receiving the acknowledgement that's long overdue. I mean, 50-something years overdue.
Yeah. Would you permit me to take a picture with you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I thought.
We also have Miriam Cruz. I'll allow y'all to accept it on her behalf. Betty Toussaint Ellsworth and Ron Ellsworth. They are not here to support us, but they're on their behalf.
King, do you have some remarks? Make sure King gets a minute with the mic if you don't mind. All right, we're waiting.
Well, thank you so very much. I appreciate it. I almost not getting something, but I'm so glad that I came.
We can't hear you.
Put the mic up. I think it's crazy that I thought it had been already something that was really exciting when I heard the name of Prince Jones. We had formally, I knew of him, I knew the work that he had did, and I respected that, and I knew where he was genuine, and he was a country lawyer, and this is what we refer to him as, the country lawyer. He was just one of them, but along with Robert Glass, but of course, you did it. You did it. Thank you, man. You did it. Thank you for that.
Wait. Yes, ready. The lights better, like, but it doesn't make
Go ahead, David. Go ahead. I'm gonna walk around. I got you. Get in close, guys. Get in close. Power to the people.
And now I would also like to express my deepest gratitude to Professor Ernest for being a trailblazer and an inspiring figure at Southern University Law School. Your unwavering commitment to justice, the legal education, and your groundbreaking contributions have only shaped the landscape of the legal field, but have also served as a guiding light for countless students, including myself. And we thank you for that. And now, on behalf of both of you, I'd like to wish you chapter. Thank you.
I gotta give it to you. And I'm gonna put it on Zoom.
Now, now concludes our award ceremony, and I want to close out with my president's farewell. So, don't make me cry. But I wrote a letter to my members and my board, and dear members of the Black Law Student Association, as I stand before you today, I am filled with a profound sense of gratitude and humility. Serving as your president has been a tremendous honor, and I am immensely proud of the collective achievements we've celebrated throughout this journey, and it's been many. Our awards gala is just a moment to recognize the extraordinary contributions of you all. And you all have displayed unwavering commitment, dedication, and resilience throughout this year. Each one of you embodies the principles of justice, equality, and the pursuit of excellence that define the Black Law Students Association. Tonight, as we reflect on our accomplishments, let us also acknowledge the challenges that we have faced and we have overcome. We have strived not only for personal success, but more importantly, for the advancement of justice and equality in our society. The bonds that we have forged with this association has extended beyond the times of just the school. We are a community that stands united and determined to break barriers, challenge norms, and create lasting change. As you all continue your journey beyond these walls and carry the spirit of advocacy that defines the Black Law Student Association, I have full confidence that the brilliance, passion, and resilience I witness within you all will continue to shape the legal landscape and embrace the opportunities ahead advocate fearlessly, and always remember that the impact of your voice can have a pursuit on justice. Thank you all for the privilege of serving as your president. I'm excited to witness the incredible achievements that each of you will undoubtedly accomplish in the future, as you all will. May our legacy be one of progress, unity, and commitment to justice. And to my board members, Lord, they have had a year with me. As my tenure as president comes to an end, I find myself reflecting on the journey that we have undertaken, because it's been long. It's been a long journey. And I appreciate you all's dedication, your passion, and it has been tremendously, it's been instrumental to shaping our organization. Y'all, we started from nothing. And to be here today and to recognize everybody, it has been an honor. And I'm so grateful to my big board for seeing the vision that I saw. And I hope that this continues. And I encourage you all to carry the torch of advocacy as well in this organization and continue your role on the board. Your influence, it extends beyond just voting, but it also extends beyond the school as well. And it extends into the legal community. Thank you all for your commitment. And thank you to everybody for coming, and congratulations to the award recipients tonight. Thank you. Oh, we can eat now, y'all. Eat, DJ, you can turn the music up, and let's get the party started.